Hello, everybody, and welcome to Dattitude. We apologize for the lateness of the show. The host is having some technical issues and probably shouldn't be operating electronic equipment, but that's okay. Here we are for Dattitude, episode 191. Thank you to Larry Holder for holding on for so long, sir.
Great pun. And just like the old days when we would do Duncan Holder and have to set up some of those random cameras on the fly. We should never be engineers for shows. But I mean, that's kind of the way of the world now. Everybody who does things from their house, at least you have like a cool background. I just have a doorway and some pictures in my background.
Every time like I come on, and which is most of the time, like I get on and I make sure that everything's working right, and I got everything set up just right. It's like everything's great. We're ready to go. The one time like I come in at like 9:54 or whatever and say, okay, we're just gonna wing it. Oh no, you ain't winging nothing today, pal.
Well, that's about right. I mean, that's pretty appropriate given the game we're going to talk to. These guys are.
You ain't kidding.
They can't wing anything, and they're just both two quite mediocre teams in the worst division. Maybe the NFC South has something to say.
Close. Wing-a-ding-ding. That's where we are. All right. Anyway, we're going to get to the Saints-Falcons talk. Before we are done today, we are also going to talk about the NFL in Week 12. More specifically, we're actually just going to talk about tomorrow's games. And maybe we'll bring back the Black Friday game into it. We'll see how it goes. But that's what we got. If you want to leave a comment, feel free to do so if you're watching on YouTube or if you're on Facebook. And yes, restrictions. It is Central Time. Again, we apologize for the delay. We thank all of you for coming on. All right, let's get to Saints Falcons. And Larry, you look at these numbers down on the screen. These teams not only have been, to me, I didn't even need to see numbers, but they've been mirror images of one another. And then when I did the numbers and put them on the screen, I'm like, wow, they really are mirror images of each other. Within two on both offense and defense in their rankings, and you look, and they both have similar, running and passing the football. I having trouble. The Falcons, though, I gotta say, if you're a Falcons fan or a Saints fan, I think actually being a Falcons fan is probably more disappointing than being a Saints fan.
Well, maybe just in general in life, yes. But I would say that I think expectations for the Saints were higher than what they were for the Falcons. And when you look at the records of both teams, I would say, okay, the ceiling for, I say it every week almost on the show, I thought the ceiling for wins for the Saints this year would be 10. I thought the ceiling maybe for the Falcons for wins would be 9. Both are achievable, so I figured both would be okay at times and stumble at times. And yeah, it's funny in that you have two offenses that don't seem to really put it together consistently. And you think that maybe there's some obvious things that they should be doing, and maybe they don't do them so much. And I might as well point to, Saints fans and people who watch the team and write about the team say, Taysom Hill, Taysom Hill, Taysom Hill. Guess what? The people are saying that.
Wait a minute. Who are you talking about here?
Bijan Robinson, Bijan Robinson, Bijan Robinson. Yeah, what am I talking about here? Right. Jim Derry. Right, exactly.
No, I agree. I hear you. And I'm definitely on you with that because, I've been one of the ones screaming, I don't have Bijan Robinson in any fantasy league or anything, so it's nothing about that. But it's frustrating. And look, even if you dislike the Falcons, sometimes you're just a football fan and you're screaming at Arthur Smith like, what are you doing? I get Tyler Algier is a decent back, and he is. He's a decent running back. But he's a complimentary guy to the guy you drafted at 8th overall. I mean, use the guy in the red zone. And I don't understand what they've done with some of these things going on. And is Atlanta going to get any better? I don't know. But we talk about the Saints. People want to talk about Dennis Allen. I think Arthur Smith is way worse. I think what he's done with this team this year, I hear what you're saying about win potential and all that, and I don't necessarily disagree, but just watching the Falcons just kind of plod around is way worse than the Saints, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the Falcons are a bad version of the Titans when the Titans were good. Like, that's what Arthur Smith tried to build with the Falcons. Because you look at the Titans, they tried to ride with Ryan Tannehill. Now that's done, but they wanted it was Derrick Henry, run the football first, play good defense. I mean, that's kind of what Arthur Smith was trying to design with this team. And now the defense has gotten better, and I've always liked Ryan Nielsen as a coach, and they've gotten some better pieces defensively, and they've gotten better defensively than they had been to start the season. But offensively, it's still a question. And now, when you look at the Saints, I would say both sides of the football become a question now that you don't have Marshawn Lattimore. Who knows how long he's going to be out. He's going to be out this week. And Dennis Allen's publicly complaining about the pass rush. So if you're hindered now in the back end with your shutdown corner out, even though you got two viable corners, and I think they're better off maybe than other teams might anticipate. But still, you got question marks on both sides of the ball for the Saints. So where do you go from here?
Or would you publicly, when all the problems you're having, talk about Cam Jordan and Carl Granderson when you have so many other issues?
Well, maybe they should blitz more or be more effective doing that. I mean, that's that could be part of it as well. But it's here's the thing. I dive into all the numbers to keep track of all this stuff. It's the Saints' pass pressure was going down last year. Now the sack totals were fine, but the pressure percentages were not as good as they had been in the previous bunch of years where they were one of the better teams. And so the trend was falling. It's almost like, all right, well, I guess they tried to address that in drafts, plural, and it hasn't really stuck with either, say, Peyton Turner, or you can look at the decision to let Trey Hendrickson walk and try to bank on Marcus Davenport. That was a bomb out. Brian Brzee, after starting well in the first couple of games, he's slowed down as a pass rusher. Foskey hasn't been a guy, so it's like they've tried, but they haven't gotten the right pieces, even though they knew that was a problem, and it's still a problem.
That's kind of called scouting. You blame your scouting department then. I mean, you bring in, that's kind of your own fault, isn't it? All right, Donnell D. Watt says Dennis Allen is the problem in a weak division, can't seize control. Well, speaking of seizing control, what the headline says is the Saints have a chance to take full control of this division. No, really, they do. If they win this game, especially if they win and the Buccaneers lose to the Colts on Sunday, then the Saints would have a 2-game lead in the NFC South with just 6 games to play. So that's where this team is right now. All the flaws, all the things that have gone wrong for this team, you could talk about them all day long. But in the end, we're sitting here in Thanksgiving week, and the Saints have a chance. And I stress a chance, because we're going to get to our predictions at the end of the show. But they have a chance to really take command in this division just by winning on Sunday. That's all they need to do.
Command is maybe a relative term, but yes, in terms of actually, yes, games ahead, yes, they certainly do. And it's a similar refrain we've been saying, though, for weeks and weeks and weeks. And you and me have fallen for the trap and been duped by the trap. a few times,
the trap, for sure.
Exactly, a few times this season, and so that's the danger with this. And I was thinking actually before we hopped on, and I was thinking, man, what if you look at, say, the mediocre teams in the NFL, and there are actually, if you listen to what Tom Brady has to say, he says there are a lot of them, which he's not totally wrong. But look at the teams that are, say, 6-4, 5-5, that sort of thing. It's like, which teams actually you're thinking, okay, maybe these teams are getting better. And I probably wouldn't point to the Saints. I probably wouldn't point to the Falcons. Now, if the Falcons won, maybe I would point to that and say, all right, maybe Desmond Ritter's getting it right finally, and say they use Bijan Robinson. But, you mentioned a team like the Colts. I think they're actually getting better. Like,
well, they're better than I think anyone expected them to be, because they were supposed to be like a 3 or 4 win team, and they're clearly better than that.
Right, like the Broncos are getting better now. They're 5-5.
Right,
like the Bengals are 5-5. I think their season is in a heap given what happened to Joe Burrow. But they're, and then I think, what is it? The Bills are now
6-4, or no? They're 5-5 as well, I think.
Yeah, so I think they're 6-5. So they're a team that I think is maybe going to have a bit of a jolt, even though they're like the Vikings are 6-5. I think they're actually.
The Bills play the Eagles this week, and they're underdogs. So
right, yeah, but like the Vikings, I think they're 6-5. I know they lost a tough one last week, but I think they're actually a team that's getting better. At some point, they're going to get Justin Jefferson back. So, like, where are the Saints and the Falcons fit in this thing? Like the Raiders, I think they're just meandering at 5 and 6. So,
do they really have to fit in there, though? That's the whole thing. You're just trying to win this division because anything I know the old anything can happen. Now, look, let's be realistic. And that's what this show's supposed to be about. I mean, if they're probably whoever wins this division is going to get Dallas. I mean, more likely than not in the first round. I mean, I don't see anyone unseating Dallas as the top wild card. I just don't. So, I mean, let's be realistic. The winner of this division, unless they go on a big run and somehow make it to the 3 seed, which isn't going to happen, is going to be the 4 seed. And so, realistically, this is a one and done team, whoever it is. So, I mean, I don't know that you need to compare them to the other teams in the NFL. I hear what you're saying, but I mean, look, this division is its own animal.
Right. And I think that's kind of my point in that, okay, we're talking about them winning a division, but where's the expectation level in terms of once you leave the division, where are you? And I'm sure enough Saints fans, I probably didn't need to explain that and make that point. I just kind of wanted to go through the process of going through these teams and saying, all right, where are the Saints here with these sort of teams? And so, yeah, like that's the thing. Like there are going to be teams in the AFC that don't make the playoffs that might have the same record, and then the Saints will be sitting at like draft pick number 20, and some of these other teams will be sitting at like draft pick number 12. Like, so that's kind of the it's the double-edged sword. It's like, all right, you win a division, but where are you in the grand scheme of things? I don't know. I could probably look it up.
Well, I mean, you can take just the feel of each team at a certain record, like the feel for the Bills and the Saints. I mean, if the Saints and the Bills go 9-8, I mean, the feel is, Jesus, this team stinks. I can't believe they're going to be talking about firing Sean McDermott. I mean, there's no question. And meanwhile, if the Colts were to go 9-8, which is a possibility, or the Texans go 9-8, I mean, you're like, wow, if you're in Houston or Indianapolis, you just thought the season was a mistake. So it just kind of depends on how you look at it. I mean, here's a perfect example. Toriel, she wants to fire the coaching staff. She's saying too many weapons for this team not to use them appropriately. I'm going to say the same thing that I said on Twitter earlier because there was someone on Twitter who has a decent amount of followers, and I followed the guy. He kind of covers the Saints from the background, I guess similar to the way I do. But he said, Dennis Allen deserves the 3rd season. There's no question about it. Go ahead, bring it on. I mean, that's someone just looking for attention because there's no reason why you would say, I mean, realistically, okay, put your feelings of what you think about the coaching staff aside. You can't say right now, in my opinion, that he should be brought on for a 3rd season. And similarly, I don't think you could say that he should be fired right now. It's too early for either one of those things. I think the last 7 games of the season is going to dictate not only what the Saints are going to do, but if he goes 5-2, which is a possibility, and they finish 10-7, I just think that some people will change their minds. You can't say that right now.
Yeah, there's no point to do that. Like, there's too much time left on the clock of the season. Like, you can't do that. Here's the thing. Say, if you're Carolina, you probably are thinking, Frank Reich could be fired right now. And you got to do a total, pressure washing of everything.
Agreed.
But yeah, look, it's you can't say that about the Saints. And I was about to say, let me go look up our power rankings on The Athletic, and it's actually written by our Falcons writer. He does our national, league-wide power rankings every week. And again, coming from a Falcons writer, he has the Saints at 17 and the Falcons at 24. So for someone who covers it, at least he's got a far better, a brighter outlook on the Saints than maybe you and me do, and maybe a more realistic outlook.
That's about right. I really do. I think that's about right. There's a couple 20 and 43 says it all for you. You can't say that. You're saying 20 and 43. He never had a decent team with the Raiders. So you could throw those records out the window. I mean, yeah, there have been coaches who have made something out of nothing. Brian Daboll did it last year. And now he's showing what these Giants really are. It's not just because Daniel Jones has been hurt. The Giants stink. Okay, they overachieved last year.
The Giants weren't good with Daniel Jones this year. Let's be honest. They panicked and signed Daniel Jones.
Jeff Haspel didn't deserve a 1st season. Well, you could say that all you want. It doesn't make a difference. He got a 1st season, and he's got a 2nd season. and there's about a 90% chance he's going to get a third season. So you can keep hating and spewing this hate inside of you until the cows come home. It doesn't make a difference. I mean, he's going to be here. So, I mean, you can hate it all you want. Rayfield's saying, wish we would have gotten Curtis Johnson back out with the offense. You know what? Maybe that's true. Maybe Curtis Johnson will come back, because I think you got to make changes in your offensive coaching staff. But saying he shouldn't have got a chance or he's terrible or whatever does you no good. The Saints are in first place in this division. I'll say it again. If, and a big if, I'm not saying they're going to win yet. If they win on Sunday, they have a 2-game lead over the Falcons, who are realistically the only other team in this division that are going to beat them, because the Bucs aren't going to do it. They have a tough schedule going down the stretch. They're not going to win 8 games, I don't think. Even if they do, they're certainly not going to win 9, and I think it's going to take 9. So the Saints take a 2-game lead over the Atlanta Falcons. They can go on cruise control.
Well, I don't know if you want them to go on cruise control.
The Giants, for God's sake. That's an automatic win. I mean,
What are you talking about? Tommy DeVito had like a 138 passer rating this week, man. He's bigger than Danny DeVito.
You're moving him up your ratings, huh?
No, he was dead last still, but he at least got like a green box, but my QB ratings, by the way, is out today. But he at least had the green box in week 11. Otherwise, it's the really dark red one with some of the other metrics. But still, yeah, it's there's no cruising for the Saints. Like, I guess if you can go cruise and go 7-10 and win a division, I don't know, but still, yeah, I don't think you could do that. But no, it comes down to, I think everyone in this city knows the Saints are who they are, and you're just hoping for the best ceiling part of they are who they are rather than the floor, because I think the ceiling is 10-7 and the floor is 7-10. So you're hoping to be closer to the ceiling than the floor. If just as a fan, if you're a fan of the team. Now, if you're not a fan of Dennis Allen, then you want the world to burn, 7-10, I'm wondering if that's enough to get him fired. I don't know.
I didn't know there were still excited fans out there, but apparently Brandon is. I mean, this is about as excited as you're going to get from Hoodats. The O-line needs to be better with the blocking. There's zero question that is true. But a win on Sunday would put them at 6-5. Hoodat and let's go. That is 100% the case. I think if the offensive line plays better, because look at the last few games, okay? They went on a little mini winning streak, got themselves, maybe they're better, and then the O-line stinks again. Derek Carr gets destroyed. He's in concussion protocol. We haven't even got to that yet, because as we speak right now, we don't even know who's quarterback on this team on Sunday. Is it going to be Derek Carr? Is it going to be Jameis Winston? Doesn't matter. I mean, Jameis Winston beat the Falcons last year. He needed a little bit of help there at the end, but he got it, and he made it happen. Doesn't matter who the quarterback is this weekend.
I almost feel like we're asking, does it matter like it's New England? Like, does it matter if it's Mac Jones or Bailey Zappi? Like, they both stink. No, look, I think that either quarterback is capable of putting together, a hot hand on a game day and winning. Like, and it's not like Atlanta is this overbearing team. So I think that sense, would you trust Derek Carr more than Desmond Ridder? Probably. Would you trust Jameis Winston more than Desmond Ridder? I don't know. He'd probably be a little more thrill ride. I don't know, but that's kind of what you're talking about here. So it's. You don't feel great about it regardless, but still, you probably feel like the Saints, at least Jameis Winston has had big-time success. Desmond Ridder, not as much, even though as a quarterback, he's won a few more games than maybe you might have thought.
I think Jameis Winston, just my opinion, I think Jameis Winston is much better than Desmond Ridder. I think Desmond Ridder is a mess. And I think you want to talk about wasting draft picks. At least with Bijan, they're wasting draft picks because they're not using them right. Desmond Ridder, they wasted draft pick because he's not good.
But he wasn't a first rounder, so that's not a waste.
Jeff says they play without passion. That bugs me. That's coaching. I mean, I can't deny that. I mean, you can't.
I agree with that.
Like, I agree. I think if they played with passion, they'd be 7-3 right now. I agree. And
you know what? I feel like that has seeped into the defense. That's the problem. Like, the defense was playing with passion, And even though I know they got the 5 turnovers against the Bears, still it's Tyson Bagent. Like it's not, it's different. And so in a crazy environment like the Dome, like that's tough for any kind of quarterback, much less an undrafted rookie guy. But still, like I feel like the defense is lacking passion. Like the first half of the Vikings game, what was that? Like if that side of the football is lacking passion, you're in trouble because that's supposed to be your strength.
They did the same against Jacksonville. They didn't show up in the first half, and then all of a sudden decided to play in the second half and almost won the game. I mean, why do you need? Why do you take first halves off? I mean, that's not, again, if it's a one game thing, you can almost excuse something, but this is it's getting to the point where it's a recurring pattern. I mean, this team doesn't, if they put together a solid game offensively and defensively, like in the same game, and they did that for multiple games in a row, I know this sounds crazy, but I think they'd be in the top 6 or 8 teams in the league if they put together a good offense. And I'm not even saying great. A good offensive game with a good defensive game all in the same game because they still haven't done it.
Like if the Saints put up 24 points and the defense, let's just be generous. They gave up 20. You'd take that every week.
Absolutely. Yeah. You mean like they were doing in the beginning of the season?
Right.
And I agree with you. I think maybe they are starting to lose a little bit of interest because something's going on. They're not playing like they were. They're certainly not doing it for 4 quarters. Pat says focus shouldn't be on quarterback. Doesn't matter what quarterback's behind center. If the O-line doesn't step up, having pressure on the quarterback almost every single down doesn't add up to wins. Yeah, no, it adds up to losses. You got to be able to protect. And then you guys do the rankings. I mean, where do you have the Saints offensive line?
I actually have to dig that up. I haven't.
They've been all over the place. I know you guys had them in the mid-20s a couple weeks ago was the last time I looked. Also, the last time I looked on PFF, and they've kind of jumped around. They've been as low as 31, I believe, but they had kind of climbed back into the mid-20s and it looked like they were on the rise. Look, if this team had an offensive line that was in 22-ish, they probably could, win this division without a lot of trouble.
All right, I'm looking at our pressure percentage on dropbacks just for quarterbacks. So obviously that's a lot. Some of that's O-line related. Any pressure percentage is either O-line and quarterback related. Right. But still, we actually have Derek Carr pressured 33.4% of his dropbacks. That's actually among 38 quarterbacks in the league. That would be 14th fewest. So
that's not surprising.
Right. I think a lot of times you're so insulated in seeing what's going on there that you don't really have a total sense of what's going on in the rest of the league. Like Justin Fields, 49.4% of the time he's pressured.
Yeah, well, I'm there. Yeah, that's really ridiculous.
Like Zach Wilson, you say what you want about
Part
him.
of that though is some quarterbacks hold on to the ball too long too.
I'll put another one that you'd be surprised. Brock Purdy's the 8th most pressured quarterback in the NFL, 40.5%.
More than Derek Carr.
Well, yeah, significantly more, and yet he's significantly better.
That can be misleading though, because I can't believe I'm saying this about a guy who's played 12 or 14 NFL games, but I mean, Brock Purdy has this presence about him and can wait until the last second and find the right guy, whereas I don't know that Derek Carr's doing that, if that makes sense. I mean, he's dumping it off a little bit too quicker. The old check down Carr routine. I mean, he does check it down a little bit quicker than some other guys do because maybe he fears getting hit.
There could be certainly some of that playing a role. I mean, there's no doubt about that. And I think he's taken too many big shots. Like that's the thing. You remember the big shots. Like that's, you can't help it it's human nature. You don't want to get drilled. I'll put it to you this way. He's the 5th fastest quarterback unloading the football in the NFL. 2.52 seconds time to throw. The only others ahead of him is Tua, Mac Jones, Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence. So he unloads the football quickly.
It hasn't helped Mac Jones. Terrence, who is become a regular here, we thank him. We thank you, Terrence, for joining us here on Dattitude every week. Usually on Friday. We're here on Wednesday because, I mean, I know Larry doesn't get any days off, but I actually do. But I'm working anyway because I got to do play-by-play on Friday night. But we're taking Thursday and Friday off here. Happy Thanksgiving and Houdat. We say the same thing to all the people who are our regulars. And if you're new to the show, we appreciate you joining us. Again, we're usually here on Friday mornings at 10 a.m. We're doing it on Wednesday. Second week in a row, we're here on a Wednesday. But we'll be back to our regular Friday slot next week. Before we move on, because I do want to talk about the NFL, we're going to make our Saints-Falcons prediction at the end of the show because we are going to move on and talk about Thursday's slate of games. I find there are some interesting games. Even though there are big spreads, I find some interesting games in there. We'll talk about those in just a minute. But before we move on, as much as people harp on how bad the Saints have been on offense, I mean, you still look, they're ranked 13th. I mean, you don't want to brag about being average because you're basically just, it's like getting a B- on your test and you go home and your dad says, you should have got an A. I mean, and I know people feel that way, but they're 11th in the league in passing offense. It's not like it's been terrible. People want to talk about how bad this passing offense has been, but trying to find the glass is half full. I mean, when you got an 11th ranked passing offense, it's not that bad.
No, it's certainly above average. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But I'm going to turn to this. Yards is one thing, points is another. So that's of course where I'm going there, and I'm going to look now. I
think they're like 18th or 19th.
I'm scurrying through. Let's see here. They're averaging 21.4 points per game, and so that's definitely middle of the road. I don't know why.
Yeah. It's like 18th, I believe, if I remember correctly. I haven't done my trends column yet. We're on live TV. That's okay. Or live internet TV, I guess. But Larry's looking things up. That's okay.
At least we have the ability to do that. When you're on live TV, most of the time you can't look up anything.
Well, it sure beats if you're joining us late. Speaking of late, a certain host here had all kinds of issues this morning. I couldn't get my microphone to work. Still couldn't, actually. I'm using my computer audio and camera here. I don't know what was going on this morning. So if I sound different or funny, it's because I'm having to use my computer audio. My mic would not connect for some reason.
Jim, by the way, you were right. 18th in points.
So see, I do pay attention sometimes.
Yep.
All right. Well, look, this, like I said, these two teams are mirror images of one another. It is what it is. We're going to come back to the Saints. We're going to finish the show with our Saints-Falcons predictions, but I do want to spend like 5 minutes before we go off the air talking about tomorrow's slate of games. You can say what you want. I mean, obviously there are some big point spreads, but I also find it interesting that we have 3 division matchups, and to me, anything can happen in division matchups. Now, I heard a stat yesterday that says that Thanksgiving favorites have been covering as of late. But I don't know that matters here. I like one of the favorites to cover. I think the other two are going to be closer. We'll figure out which one I like of the favorites. But which one of these games strikes your fancy the most?
I actually think it is the first one. I think Detroit, Green Bay. I know it looks like Aaron Jones is going to be out. But I will say that Jordan Love has been playing better lately. Before, he's been pretty bad. It was almost like he played pretty well for 8 minutes against the Saints, then really went off the deep end and struggled. But last 3 games he's played better. And then Detroit, poor Justin Fields. He did everything he could to help win that game. And then you get all these interceptions from Jared Goff, and then Detroit puts together a couple drives at the end of the game and they win. So even when Jared Goff is bad, they still win. So yeah, I feel like that this is a bit of an intriguing game to me, just because certainly a rivalry game in the sense it's a division, the NFC North, and maybe Detroit takes a breath for a minute. So maybe Green Bay kind of stays within this game. But yeah, I think that I like that one more than the other two.
That's the one I'm interested in as well. I guess San Francisco, Seattle could be interesting. They're without Kenneth Walker, and Geno Smith is banged up. I'm actually surprised this line isn't a little bit bigger than it is. I know it's in Seattle, and then I'll hold the line down. But look, Jared Goff. People talk again. I go back to what fans say about their quarterbacks, and people hate Derek Carr. They hate Jameis Winston. They just hate. You know why? Because Drew Brees isn't here anymore. That's why they hate Derek Carr and Jameis Winston. There's no question about it. But Jared Goff really has been bad for 3 games in a row now. Detroit better find a way to fix that really quickly. But I guess as far as spreads go, I'm not sure that if I had to pick a favorite that's going to cover, I think it will be Detroit because I think they're due for a good game. I'm not buying that Jordan Love. I was all on the Jordan Love train before the season started, but man, just because he's had a good couple of games, does it really take 11 games to show that you can play quarterback in the NFL? I'm not impressed at all.
Oh, I'm not certainly buying him. I'm just saying he's getting better. Like he's gotten better.
Well,
he's played.
How's he going to do without Aaron Jones?
He's played better the last few games. Well, look, Aaron Jones has been in and out of the lineup kind of all year.
Yep.
I mean, I'll just put it to you this way: you look at Jordan Love, 59.7 completion percentage. It's one of the worst in the NFL. Like that's the fact that he actually still helps them is pretty remarkable. He just comes up in bigger spots when they need him, so his rates feel like they're a little bit higher. But yeah, when you look at what's helped Jared Goff, I could tell you is that they have a 2-headed monster running the football. Like they can run all over the people, and I think that's something that Jared Goff, because before that Jared Goff has had to play well, and he's played well for seriously a year now. Like he started getting hot midway through last season, and he's played well throughout this entire kind of span. But yeah, the fact that they're running the football so well, and I don't think anyone is ripping their Jahmyr Gibbs draft pick anymore. I think that has become something that they needed and really has worked out. And of course, David Montgomery's played well, and now he's back in the field. So you don't need Goff to save the day. And
you know what? And even when those two were hurt, remember there was a week where they were both out. They were hurt, I think week 6 or something like that, and they still ran the football. That's the difference between a really good offensive line and a piss poor one. So, I mean, honestly, if you want to talk about the Lions and Saints, I know that they're worlds apart when you talk about overall, but the Lions and Saints are pretty close in talent, except for the Lions' offensive line is one of the top 3 in football, and that is the difference.
Well, there's a reason why one offensive coordinator among those two is a hot name to be a head coach, and one is about to be fired and never hired as a head coach. So take it for what it is.
You got a point. I like Detroit actually in this one. I think they cover the spread.
I picked Detroit. I don't do spreads, but obviously I picked Detroit to win.
I think that's going to be a fun game, though. I agree with you. I don't think they're going to win like 30-10 or anything, but I do think in the end they will win because by more than 7.5. Because again, they played so poorly last week at home. They're about to go on a long stretch. They're playing 4 out of their next 5 on the road, and we're going to find out a lot about the Lions going down the stretch. I actually don't think they're as good as a lot of people think they are. But again, we're going to find out about them. And I think they know with this stretch coming up, I think they're going to play their best football. They know how to win on Thanksgiving because they do it more than anyone else. By a little nugget for you, Larry. You like little nuggets.
Yes, love that.
It's Thanksgiving. Lions win tomorrow. It'll be the first time since 1954 that they won at least 5 games in a row in this series.
Interesting.
So they have a chance to do that. Win 5 games in a row. 1949 and 1954, they won 11 in a row, and they haven't won as many as 5 in a row since. They won 4 in a row a few times. So before we move on, all right, Jack wants to know, does he trade Devontae for Tank Bigsby and Najee Harris? Absolutely not. Najee Harris has done nothing this year. And
Jaylen Warren is a better
running back. Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely not. You do not do that. And then Washington, Dallas, I don't think we need to talk a whole lot about that. Although I do think if I had to bet on it, and you don't have to, I tell this to people all the time, you don't have to bet on every game. There's no law that says you have to bet on, so I won't be betting on this game. Washington at Dallas, I think Washington's going to cover because they've been Jekyll and Hyde. As much as they stunk last week, I actually think they're going to cover at Dallas. We'll see. And then the last game, again, we talked about it. Geno Smith is iffy. Kenneth Walker is not going to play. I think Kenneth Walker not playing really hurts that team.
Yeah, I think so too. And I don't care if Geno Smith and Kenneth Walker are playing. I mean, they're not beating the 49ers. The 49ers have stumbled. They did their one middle of the season stumble, and now they're back rolling again. They are as dangerous as a team as anyone in the NFL now. And
I agree.
it's hilarious that every week I have to when Brock Purdy does well, I write Brock Purdy does well, and people lose their minds. Like they think he's terrible, in a national sense.
He's terrible.
Oh, just people who just see the numbers and that Brock Purdy is like his numbers are better than Patrick Mahomes. And they just lose their minds. It's like, have you watched Brock Purdy play? I mean, he can play. And they call him a system quarterback. Every quarterback is a system quarterback. Like
Drew Brees was a system quarterback,
right? I mean, it's
I'm not kidding.
It's silly. Like it's silly to even say that.
Brock Purdy, if you watch, and I know you've always loved the film part of it and breaking down and going back through plays and looking at certain plays. I think if you really watch Brock Purdy, I think he's the next. I don't want to say Tom Brady because nobody's Tom Brady, but he's of that ilk. I think he has that in him to be a great Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes, two great quarterbacks, two completely different kind of quarterbacks. So when I say that Brock Purdy is going to be of the ilk of Brady, I think he's going to follow kind of in those footsteps and play that kind of game. I think take command. I know it's only been whatever it is, 12, 14, whatever, however many games he started. But I really think this kid has a chance to be in this league for a decade. I mean,
I agree. Well, what's great about it for the 49ers' sake, you've got him on the cheap for at least one more year. At least one more year. He's in year 2 of his rookie contract. So he probably wouldn't get paid until after year 3. So you can build around him for sure. And they certainly have done that. And so that's the key to success in the NFL. I mean, that's all. Seattle was able to sustain for a while because they didn't have to pay Russell Wilson. That's the key to it. And so, the 49ers are in that spot. And so, that to me, right now, if I would have to say, man, who do I feel the most confident with to win the Super Bowl? I would pick them. I've been Eagles. Before the season, I was Bengals. Obviously, that's not going to happen for circumstances. But, I was saying Bengals, Eagles. I'd love Jalen Hurts, but I feel like I'm taking 49ers or Eagles, I'm taking 49ers. And if I'm taking, it's either 49ers or Chiefs or 49ers or Ravens, I'm taking the 49ers. I think they're the best team in the NFL right now.
I think I think the same thing that I thought in August. I think that the Cowboys and 49ers are the best teams in the NFC. I still believe that. I know the Cowboys are going to be a wild card because they're not going to catch the Eagles. Well, they might. The Eagles have a really tough schedule coming up, and the Cowboys still play them again. So it's possible, but I doubt it. I really think it's going to be a 49ers, Cowboys, NFC Championship game, and I think the winner of that game is going to win the Super Bowl. I still believe that. So we'll find out if I'm right. Real quickly, Miami and the Jets on Black Friday. Do you think the Jets – they have the 5th best passing defense. Are they going to quit, or are they going to get new life under Tim Boyle at quarterback? Can they hang with Tua or not?
I think they can. The Jets have really slowed down quarterbacks outside of last week. I think maybe they get a little reinvigorated now that Zach Wilson will never see the field again. But here's the thing, and I am dead serious. I think the Jets should be starting Trevor Siemian and not Tim Boyle.
You know what's sad? As much as I bashed Trevor Siemian all last season and look, that dude had to go. He had to go. But you know what? I think you're right. I think he's better than either one of those two clients.
Yes, I think so.
Jeez. And that says a whole lot.
I've at least seen Trevor Siemian win some games in life. Like Tim Boyle, no.
That's really bad. Jando says playing a hurt quarterback has come back to bite us. You know what? I don't disagree with you whatsoever. I said before, I thought Derek Carr playing that Tampa game not only hurt him in that game, I think it's really kind of hurt him going forward. I think there's no reason to play Derek Carr this week. Absolutely not. There's no reason to play Derek Carr. That's a great transition as we get back to the Saints, about to make our Saints-Falcons pick here. I don't know how you feel. We're about to find out. But if I'm the Saints, put Jameis in there. Whatever happens, happens. Even if you lose, at least the one good thing you have if the Saints, if you lose, you're still tied for the lead, and you can go make things happen down the stretch. You don't like that you have to come home and play Detroit, but you're about to have a 3-game homestand. And 2 of the teams in that homestand are really bad football teams. So, look, if you lose, you lose. It's not the end of the world. There's no reason to play Derek Carr in this game whatsoever.
I think that's a great point about playing him hurt. And he was not good against Tampa. And obviously we've seen that Tampa's not very good. So I think they just feared playing Jameis. I don't know. I think, and they got too much money tied to Derek Carr. I don't know. But, I think that's I
don't get their fear of you say that word, and I think that's the right word. I don't know what their fear of playing Jameis is. I mean, are they scared that if he plays well, there's going to be a controversy? What is the deal? They almost go out of their way not to play that dude.
That could be part of it. Or then they fear that he's going to throw 8 picks. I don't know. Or they fear that he's going to be great and then they're going to have a quarterback controversy. It could be either or. It's
mind-boggling, really.
It's pretty
funny. They literally go out of their way not to play Jameis Winston.
Yeah. So as I texted you before, do we have to make a pick in this game?
We do. We do. And you know what? That's where we are right now. We're trying to cut this off I was trying to cut it off at 40 minutes of all the problems we have. We're going to cut it off at 45 minutes. So we got 2.5 minutes. Larry Holder, is that time of the week where we make our predictions. Saints, Falcons. It is a pick-em line. That means Vegas has no idea who's going to win. And you know what? I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but I don't think either one of us have an idea either.
I should be really brave and pick a tie. But I don't think I'm going to do that. And I'm tired of picking the Saints and being burned, so I'm not picking them this week. I'm going with the Falcons. I think that they actually can throw the ball with a lack of pass pressure and Marshawn Lattimore out. So I think that the Falcons and Desmond Ridder can actually be effective in there, which will open up the run game. And the Saints haven't been great stopping the run lately. And obviously, you see in the rankings, they're 20th, in rushing yards allowed. So I'm going Falcons. Let's go 17-14 Falcons.
Ooh, exciting.
That's how much I'm looking forward to this one.
My boy Josh Alt's out there. He says he'd rather have 3 TDs and 3 interceptions from Winston over 2 interceptions and 1 TD.
Well, at least you're guaranteed 21 points, but it might be for the other team too.
Yeah, it's not that bad. Come on. I think Jameis Winston's going to come in and play a decent game. All right, I know this sounds crazy. I wrote this in my NFL picks column this morning, it's out on Wednesday instead of Thursday because I'm taking a day off and because my skinny svelte figure needs to eat all day tomorrow. That's what I need to do. Look, I tried to pick the Falcons. There is no scenario in my head where I'm thinking the Saints are going to seize control of this division and be up by 2 games. I just can't fathom it. But yet, I just can't do it. The Falcons, their defense is okay, but I can't believe their offense is really ranked 15th. I think the Saints, even with their injuries, even with Lattimore hurt, even with the uncertainty at quarterback, I don't see how this team loses to Atlanta. I just don't. I think it's a higher scoring game. For some reason, the first game always seems to be higher scoring than the last one. And when these two teams play, I'm going to say Saints 27, Falcons 20, and you're sweating that last drive. And if Desmond Ridder can come back and get that tying touchdown and maybe throws a pick to Paulson Adebo or something in the end. I don't think, I think they win by 7, but I don't think they have big control, but I just can't take the Falcons here. Again, I really tried to. I can't.
I'm just disgusted by both teams, and I've picked them to win too many times, and they've lost, and I don't like either one of them. So I think there's definitely some bitterness just in that sense. But I would say if I would give them heads up, I would pick the Saints. But I've said that before, and I've been burned. So
the good news is one of us is going to be right. Usually we're on the same side, and we both pick the Saints. We're usually wrong. We didn't mention Michael Thomas on IR, and I'm going to be frank. Don't take this the wrong way. And I don't think it matters one iota. Michael Thomas is exactly what I thought he would be coming to the season. Just 1 inch smidge better than worthless. That's where he's been.
Yeah, I will say on our news judgment yesterday when that news broke, I was working on our NFL news desk, and the fact that I was like, hey, guys, do y'all even care about this? And then they said the fact that you, New Orleans, covered the Saints for a million years, have to ask us this question means it's probably not worth doing a news headline. And I was like, yeah, that's okay.
I mean, honestly, I think he's already played more games probably than we thought he would play this season. He's not going to come back. Once Michael Thomas goes on IR, he goes into Never Land. If the Saints were, I don't want to get into this tangent because we got to go off the air. But if the Saints were really good, do we really think he'd be going on IR? No.
Don't know. But that's the question that's always going to linger with him. I mean, what do you trust him totally with some of these ailments? And then, here's what this is, we don't have to dive into this, but look, he's going to be a free agent after this year.
Good luck.
Who signs him? Where does he end up after this year? I'm curious. I'm
1
curious.
year, $4 million to sign with. I don't know. He's only going to accept a deal he might accept less to go to a decent team. The Ravens,
Chiefs.
Chiefs. That would be interesting.
I would look for him or Mike Evans with the Chiefs next year.
Oh, Mike Evans didn't need to leave. That's that dude busts his ass and doesn't get. Look, we can hate Mike Evans all we want.
He's a player. He could still play.
Not only can he still play, he's trying. He's busting his keister. And I watched a lot of Mike Evans this year, and I've been very impressed with how hard he's been trying with Baker Mayfield.
Same draft, Mike Evans and Odell Beckham. Who's playing better?
There's no question. I mean, who plays no matter what?
Right.
One of them. All right, Larry, we'll do it again. We're back to our regular Friday time slot. You're not going to eat too much turkey tomorrow, are you?
I'm going to be working while eating, so okay. I'll probably just be eating all day then.
So you're not going to be like me and have a house full of family.
I will be at a house full and still having to monitor and watch all of the games. So, yeah. Tough gig, I know, but somebody's got to do it.
It's easier to tell family to shut up than other people.
True. Very, very true.
Come on, move it.
Yes. Facts.
All right. Have a happy Thanksgiving, my friend. We'll see you a week from Friday.
You too, buddy. You too.
And thanks to all of our watchers and listeners out there. When I'm done with this, we're putting 2 pods into one. Uncle Big Nick is out of town, so I'm just going to read his picks. We'll have our top picks of the week. You may not want to hear them after last week because we both did kind of bad. But we've been good overall this season. We'll add that along with my monologue. Find it wherever you find your podcast. Search for Dattitude as we do. Back to our regular schedule next week, 3 times a week. We thank you for watching. Everyone have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Talk to you next week.